if we can make it, mister. The going at this time of the day is terrific. What time you say the Normandy docks?
10 o'clock. Do the best you can. It's rather important that we get there on time.
What a jam. And we're braving all of this for dear Uncle Carl, intrepid explorer that he is. Well, the light's green. I think we're going to move.
Yes, I think we'll make it all right.
We'd better be there when the boat docks. Otherwise, Uncle Carl's apt to disappear for another 3 years if we aren't on hand to snatch him off the gangplank.
And then Aunt Clara would blame us, and wouldn't that be nice?
Do you suppose he'll bring that mysterious native servant? Or a stolen jewel from the eye of an idol?
He's a queer duck. You might show up here with a couple of poisonous snakes and a dusky bride.
Well, maybe a bride, dusky or otherwise, would do him good. He needs a woman to look after him.
We're almost at the dock now.
Oh, it was nothing, boys. We stumbled on the old buried city, unearthed some pots and pans, mummies, and some gems of advice, written, no doubt, by the Laura Jean Libby of her day.
Mr. Jackson, you've spent 3 years digging in those roads. You faced death at the hands of natives, strange diseases, and man-eating beasts.
All the day's work, young man, and now be good chaps and run along, will you, and let me finish my packing.
You don't seem to appreciate that you've unearthed one of the most valuable geological finds of a decade, and that's news, which makes what you say news.
Right.
Oh, boys, you flatter me.
Well, I'd like to know what kind of a thrill there can be for a man like you back here in civilization.
What changes have taken place during your absence, and which impressed you most?
What a question to ask. Well, I haven't put my foot on shore yet. Oh, there'll probably be a great many changes, and I expect to get a big kick out of some of them, but now you must excuse me, boys. You know, I got some friends waiting for me.
Well, sure. Well, I will thank you.
Thank you very much.
Surely. Mr. Jackson, how long will you remain in America?
Yeah, nothing more I can tell you. You simply must let me go.
Hello, Uncle Carl.
Hello, hello.
Welcome home.
Welcome home. I'll be down in a minute. My niece now, the soul of punctuality.
Well, Mr. Jackson.
Uncle Carl. Welcome home. You look marvelous.
Look fit yourself. How are you, Charles?
Hello, how are you?
Tell me, where is he?
Where's who?
The mysterious servant. The sneaky, mysterious creature who suddenly appears from nowhere, who stands behind you with folded arms, guarding your safety.
That's you reading books again. The only mysterious thing about my servants was the way they used to make my tobacco disappear. Now, excuse me. I'll be to the customs in a jiffy.
Well, make it snappy. We've only an hour to get to the airport.
All aboard!
You must have had a great thrill coming over on the Normandy. You know, she's the last word in ships.
In a way. After all, a boat is a boat.
Hey, wait a minute. Normandy isn't just a boat. She's entirely different. She's streamlined.
Well, so is a camel. All camels are alike. They're all impossible.
Yes, I know. But the Normandy is entirely different.
Well, there is more of it.
But that isn't all. The Normandy has caught the new spirit in transportation. And that spirit isn't just appearance, although that is important, but its contours, weight reduction, and strength.
Well, I suppose you structural engineers do attach a good deal of importance to such things. But you engineers aren't as smart as you think you are. These fellows whose dreams I've been disturbing with my digging did a lot of things that you pride yourselves on, and they did them 3,000 years ago.
Mother, are we flying?
Yes, dear.
Why don't the wings flap?
I don't know.
Yes, and some of the women's ornaments are startlingly like the ones that you modern women think are the right thing today. Oh, no, you haven't changed as much as you think you have in 3,000 years.
You and your mummies. You should stop digging around ancient tombs and get acquainted with some live women.
I'll give up my ancient diggings for some modern gold digging. Oh, no. I'm a confirmed bachelor. I'm going to stick to my mummies.
Are you a mummy?
Well,
I do hope they aren't going to be late.
Oh, I don't think they will be. Planes are always on time these days.
This will be quite a change for Carl after 3 years in the wilderness.
The table looks lovely, doesn't it?
Yes. Let's go into the living room for a cup of tea.
I'd like some.
What's that funny train, Mother?
say, that's a striking-looking train.
That's just what we were talking about. It's the new spirit in transportation. It's a streamlined train.
They're marvelous. Very comfortable and air-conditioned.
On the boat, the reporters asked me what new discoveries I expected to make back here in civilization. I suppose that streamliner is one of them.
Yes, and when I get you home, I'm going to see that you make another discovery.
Yes, dear.
I feel very messy. I'm going to freshen up a bit.
What does she mean?
You know, eternal feminine.
That train is certainly streaking it along. What is it about this streamlining that's caught the public fancy so suddenly? Isn't it a sort of fad?
Fad? Oh, no, it's no fad. Why, some of the railroads using streamlined trains have already more than doubled their passenger traffic.
Well, those streamlined contours are very attractive.
And they do cut wind resistance tremendously. But that's merely an outside evidence of more important interior changes.
What do you mean?
For years, high-speed vehicles have been carrying tons and tons of dead weight. We engineers have been using structural plans inherited from your friends 3,000 years ago. And we got wise to ourselves. Well, this plane is a good example. Look at that light, rigid truss construction. It's less than half as heavy as old designs, and yet it's stronger. Why, each piece of that framework has ample, measured reserve strength.
I see, but how do you do it?
I want a mummy.
That's a very good story.
Carl does so appreciate the niceties and comfort civilization when he gets back from these trips of his. I can't understand why he doesn't stay home, where other sensible men do.
But Carl is doing very important work in the world.
My dear, I thought you didn't approve.
I didn't. That was just the trouble. But I feel differently now.
Oh, my dear, I am so glad. I was terribly upset when you and Carl disagreed. Perhaps it isn't too late.
Oh, I'm afraid it is. I don't believe Carl will ever forgive me for my lack of understanding.
That's only a general outline of what has been made possible by new developments in light, strong metals. In fact, you can sum it all up by saying that greater strength with less weight has been accomplished by years of study and experiment. But out of it all has come the greatest advance in transportation since Henry Ford built his first car.
Then the streamline business is not as new as it might be.
Oh, in a way it isn't. But it's been a dream of engineers and designers for centuries, and a reality in their shops and laboratories for years before the public ever saw it.
It sounds interesting. In fact, you might call it another form of exploration.
You sure you won't come with me, dear?
No, thank you. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure I'm doing the right thing by coming to dinner tonight. I've no way of knowing how Carl will feel about it.
Don't forget, I'm Carl's sister. I know him better than you do. After all, There's no reason why you shouldn't be a guest. He can't eat you.
No.
I must rush. The plane will soon be here.
All right. Clara will probably be here in a moment. Tell me, how does it feel to be back in your native city?
Great. Great. Say, there's a very unusual looking car.
Carl,
Clara, you look great.
and you look better than ever.
What are you doing driving a car? You used to be afraid to even touch a steering wheel. What kind of a car is this?
That's the latest example in automotive engineering, and a very good example of that streamlining I was telling you about. Its official name is the Lincoln Zephyr V-12.
Well, it's certainly unlike any automobile I ever saw. How does it ride?
You see.
Why, look here. You've no idea how much room there is if you look inside. Get the bags. There's room enough for all the luggage, you ladies besides. And we'll still be comfortable.
You are out of date. One doesn't put luggage on a seat in really modern cars.
Huh?
Come back here, Uncle Carl.
Say, there's enough room there for a life-size mummy.
Well, I don't know about that, but it will take a bag of golf clubs and several pieces of luggage, with room to spare.
Well, let's get started.
You drive, Charles.
There you are.
There's an open stretch of country between the airport and the city. Want to see what you'll do?
Charles, let her go. It certainly rides beautifully at 70 miles an hour. Why, it's like floating on air. No sensation of speed, no vibration. Smooth as a kitten's purr.
I tell you, Uncle Carl, you can't beat Lincoln Zephyr performance or Zephyr style and appearance. This car's had a wonderful acceptance, you know.
Where's the car made, Charles? In Detroit?
Yes, right in the Lincoln plant. And Lincoln quality through and through.
Lincoln plant, eh? Oh, I know that plant. Finest of its kind in the world. I used to drive a Lincoln. Best car I ever owned, too.
Exactly. And Lincoln craftsmanship and experience have made this car everything the big Lincoln is in distinction and dependability.
I can certainly believe that. Why, Esther, what are you doing?
Writing a letter to Florence. She had us for dinner in New York.
Writing a letter in the back seat of an automobile doing 50 miles an hour? Why, you're joking.
See for yourself.
The reason Esther can write so well in the back seat is because it's placed well forward of the rear axle to cut down shocks and jolts on uneven ground.
That, plus the fact that I learned to write very early in life.
The woman's impossible.
Oh.
Well, are you ready?
Yes, in a minute. What's the idea of all this fancy dress? Clara's treating me as if I were a stranger around here.
Oh, just a little surprise.
Surprise? Oh, what kind of surprise?
You know how these women are.
Women? Do you mean there are going to be other women here tonight, besides Esther and Clara?
Oh, now, don't get excited. You'll enjoy this party.
Is there a woman mixed up in this?
Well,
I thought so. Who is she?
now listen. Don't let Esther know I told you. It's Helen Cheney.
Helen Cheney? I tell you, I won't go through with it.
But you've got to go through with it. Why, if Esther finds out that I told you...
Oh, all right, I'll go through with it. Never let it be said that a Jackson retreated in a pinch. No, I'll go through with it.
Great. After all, you were engaged to her once.
He looks quite as well as ever.
Here he is now.
Greetings.
Well, Helen Cheney. Esther, this is a surprise. Why, Helen, you're marvelous. Let's have a look at you. Just as charming as ever.
Thank you. You're looking very fit yourself. 3 years in the wilds and you still pay nice compliments.
If I'd known what I was missing over there,
Dinner is served.
Well, Helen, shall we lead the way?
All right.
If I thought you'd done this to...
Oh, now, come, dear. What are you, a callow youth? Aren't you Carl Jackson, F.R.G.S. Ph.D. and member of the French Legion?
I don't trust you.
Oh.
Helen, you there, please.
All right.
Esther, over here.
Thank you.
Carl, you sit here. Charles, right here, please. Donald, you take the head of the table.
You know, Carl, I think you must have taken a leaf out of the book of those ancient Egyptians. Why, you look younger than ever.
I'm not sure I like the comparison, young lady, but let it pass. As for you, I think you must have discovered the beauty secrets of Helen of Troy long before we deciphered her recipes.
Seems to me I've heard you rave about Helen's looks before, Uncle Carl. Glad you haven't changed your opinion about her.
Well, that's one thing that Helen and I would never quarrel about.
That's very interesting.
Oh, of course, it's quite an honor. I've got to go. One doesn't get an honorary degree every day, you know.
So, the university is adding another batch of unintelligible letters after your name.
Oh, there'll be a group there of noted scientists and educators. Quite an assemblage.
Why not have Helen drive you over?
Oh, no, it's all right. I'll go by train. I don't want to bother anybody.
Well, you wanted to ride in a Zephyr, and you've been offered a very good driver. Why not?
I don't want to impose on Clara taking her car.
That's perfectly all right. Charles doesn't mind my driving his car. He says even a woman can drive a Lincoln Zephyr. You can drive him over, can't you, Helen?
Well, of course I can. And I'd love to see the exercises at the university.
All right.
Well, now that that's settled, Esther and I'll drive over in our car and we'll be in plenty of time for the ceremonies.
I never realized how good it would be to be back home. It's grand to be here amongst friends.
Yes, and we're all glad to have you back.
Do you mean that?
Of course I do. Why, ever since you went away, I've regretted our quarrel.
It was silly, wasn't it? Well, there's quite a wide space between us. I don't seem to remember there's a long distance separating us when we used to go motoring in the old days.
There is more space now. The Zephyr has a much wider front seat. 3 may sit comfortably together.
Oh, so that's it. Well, there aren't 3 of us here now, are there? Do you mind if I move a little closer? What nerve you have, Helen.
What brakes this car has.
It's a good thing you saw that woman in time.
This high, wide windshield is just one of the safety features in this car. It has no blind spots, and you can see an emergency before it becomes an accident.
Well, this car's certainly selling itself to me. I think I'll buy one and go for a long trip.
A trip?
Yeah.
Where?
Oh, I don't know. I was thinking of Niagara Falls. If I could get someone to go with me.
What did you mean by that remark? Is that a proposal?
I swore I'd never propose to you again. But I didn't say anything about inviting you on a motor trip with me. Niagara Falls is the place where all the married people go, isn't it? That is, if they're going on a honeymoon. What do you say, Helen?
Well, I promised to drive for you until you could get a license, didn't I?
And there is much of our advancing science is based on our knowledge of what has gone before, we owe a great debt of gratitude to those men who, in the field of archaeology, have made it possible. This gives me extreme pleasure.
Thank you.
Well, aren't you proud of him?
You bet I am.
Oh, here he is now. Congratulations, Uncle Carl.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Well, let's go. I want to get away from this mob before someone else starts making a speech.
Come on, Charles, let's get started before the crowd.
Just a minute, young lady. I'm going to ride with Charles. You and Helen can go home in Clara's car. There's something I want to talk over with Charles.
Well, haven't you anything to talk over with me?
Well, Helen can tell you all the news with me. Hey, what's going on here? Well, sitting behind this wheel is the final test. And I must admit, the car meets it magnificently. What an engine. What pickup. My mind's made up, Charles.
Well, you certainly make up your mind in a hurry. But if you really want to buy a Lincoln Zephyr, I think it can be arranged. We go right by White's, where I bought mine. What do you say we stop in there for a minute?
That suits me. Charles, isn't the Lincoln a Ford project?
That's right. And so is the Lincoln Zephyr.
Of course, I know the Ford V8 is a very economical car. I fancy the V12 isn't very easy on gas, and buying it's going to make a rather large dent in my bank account.
You're wrong on both counts. Why, we're getting 18 miles to the gallon consistently in our Zephyr. Streamlining, weight reduction, and weight distribution help an efficient engine achieve this.
Well, it's really revolutionary, isn't it?
Revolutionary, but not radical. All based on sound engineering. For instance, this car has no conventional frame.
No frame? You're joking.
Oh, no, I'm not. I'm serious. It's built on the same principles as the plane we flew in on. Remember that truss construction I pointed out in the bulkheads?
Yes, surely.
Well, this car is sort of an airplane hull on wheels. Pressed steel floor plate is electrically welded to upright steel channel members. Bulkheads, front and rear, give the whole strength. And the front and rear springs are directly attached to the body structure.
That's very interesting.
Well, when we get to White's showroom, you'll see what I mean.
Good afternoon, Mr. Kent. May I be of service?
I'd like to have my uncle see the Lincoln Zephyr, if you don't mind.
Yes, indeed, and I'll be glad to answer all the questions.
Well, I know that car pretty thoroughly. Remember, I drive a Zephyr.
Of course. You know, 15,000 Lincoln Zephyr owners are our best salesmen.
Well, we should be. I'd like to have you meet my uncle, Dr. Carl Jackson, Mr. Howard.
Dr. Jackson, it's an honor. I've read a great deal about your explorations.
Oh, I had no idea that the news of my humble efforts had reached so far. Say, what I could do with a car and engine like this. Mountains, deserts, nothing would stop me.
Well, you're right about the engine. It's a beautiful thing. There it is. V12, 110 horsepower, aluminum cylinder heads, steel pistons. Well, we think it's in a class by itself.
And I agree with you. It's great.
And that trademark, Lincoln, that's as important as anything about the car. It means Lincoln standards of mechanical excellence. Everything the name Lincoln stands for. Well, I suspect Mr. Kent has told you something about Lincoln Zephyr body construction.
Yes, and I think it's the most striking advance I've heard of since my return. It seems to sound the keynote of modern transportation.
Bill, what happened?
Just when I had everything arranged for Helen to drive Carl home, he ran away with Charles.
And you and Helen drove home together?
I don't think it's a bit funny. I was managing beautifully up until now.
It looks to me as though Carl had taken the management of this expedition away from you.
And that gives you the complete Lincoln Zephyr story.
Well, that seems to settle it. But wait a minute, Charles. There's a time element involved in this.
You're right, Dr. Jackson. There is a time element. 3 years from today, the Lincoln Zephyr will still be a modern car.
Was that what you mean by time element?
I'm not so sure, Charles. I may need this car very suddenly.
Well, you're not leaving for foreign parts again, are you?
I don't know. I'll let you know just after dinner tonight. What about it? Can I get a car immediately?
Well, we'll be glad to loan you a car to drive on a half-hour's notice. Or you may use a car to make delivery of your Lincoln Zephyr.
Now that everything's settled, let's go. I have a very important engagement for dinner tonight.
But, Carl, I couldn't possibly without some preparation.
Now, not another word. I've made arrangements to get a Lincoln Zephyr at half an hour's notice. I'll get Charlie on the telephone now. He can get us the license.
But, Carl, don't you see...
Helen, I'm a man of action. We wasted too many years as it is. Let's not waste another minute. Let's get married tonight. Now.
Will you be sensible and...
Helen, you've made me the happiest man in the world. Come along, Helen.
Oh, Carl, you...
Come along.
Hello?
It's happened.
What?
Just as we hoped. They're going to be married.
Married?
Carl wants to talk to you.
Hello? Yeah? For good Lord, why tonight? Oh, yes, I think I can be arranged. Oh, surely we can get the license. All right, I'll call up White's and have them send the Lincoln Zephyr right over. It'll be here in front of the door by the time you get here. Right, goodbye. And we thought we had to bring him up to date on speed.
Isn't it marvelous?
Oh, it's grand.
Take good care of her, Uncle Carl.
Oh, say so.
Well, he said he'd waited all these years and he wasn't going to wait another minute, so what could I do? The logic was all on his side.
So the great explorer had to come home to make the greatest discovery of all.
The greatest discovery of my life.
Uh-oh. How about the Lincoln Zephyr?
Well, I did discover them about the same time, didn't I? And now I've got both of them.
Lucky.
We'll be looking for you when you come back.
Helen, bye, Carl.
Well, he got one of the finest girls in the world.
And the greatest automobile in the world.
Right.